Welcome into the Point After with Mitch Kaiser. I am your host, Mitch Kaiser, here today on a Wednesday afternoon, and I am joined by PFF's very own Trevor Sikkema, one of my good friends. Trevor, welcome into the show. I appreciate you doing this. I know you probably had like a million shows to get to today, so I'm glad you could squeeze in mine for the time being. And how you doing, man?
Of course, brother. I'm doing great. Always love talking ball with you, whether it's in person and now in a very cool way with you having your own show here, which I was very excited to join when you sent me the invite. Obviously, it's a great time of year because we're here talking about the Senior Bowl. There's a lot of really fun stuff to talk about, but I'm doing fantastic, man. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course, brother. I was going to say, I feel like you and I have done a podcast together in person like 100 times, but we've never actually done a podcast together. So
True.
This is the first one that we're actually recording in like a studio setting, and we'll get that out. So I'm excited, man. We got a lot of thoughts to share.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. The best podcasts are always the ones where you just feel like you're talking with your friends at a bar or in a living room or whatever anyway. So you and I have plenty of practice at that.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure that this will be just like it has been for the last couple of years with us.
Definitely, yeah. No, of course, I've had like 25 people lining up to come on my podcast, so I'm glad I could also fit you in as well. I'm totally kidding. Yeah. It's not the case at all. But yeah, so
Yet. That wait list is about to hit triple digits. We
check
know
back
it's
Senior
coming.
Bowl 2027 and see what's at then.
There you go.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Trevor. We're going to get into the Senior Bowl specifically and talk about some rising prospects coming away from that week last week down in Mobile. You were there in attendance for the practices. First, just kind of kick it off. Walk me through your week down there. How was the practices, man? I know you're down with Max and Dalton and got to network a little bit.
Dude, it's awesome. I love the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl. Like those two events back to back are some of my favorite throughout the whole year. It's funny. Alex Katzen, who works for Wide Left and he covers the Chargers. He does a lot of different stuff, covers the draft, all this kind of stuff. He had tweeted out, it's funny because for most of the year, a lot of my close work friends, I would say, I just see them as icons on a screen. It's either on Twitter, it's email, it's Slack, it's something like that.
The talking heads.
Yeah, essentially, like it quite literally is that. And then when you get to these events, you actually get to see these guys in person. And
full body. You have a full body.
Right. And I always think that it's funny, too, because you have your name that's on your credential, but I've said this for years, you should also have to have your Twitter AV, like your Twitter picture that is also on your credential, because there are some times when I won't fully recognize a person's name, or well, normally I recognize the name, but like the face, like sometimes people's profile pictures are like 3 years old and now they have long hair, now they have a beard, now they've been in the gym for forever and they're absolutely ripped like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like whatever. And I don't, and it's so funny, like some of those changes can happen with people and I don't recognize them right off the bat. And so all that to say, it's great to see friends. It's great to get to catch up with people and pick people's brain. And for as much as like the Senior and the Shrine Bowl is a lot of fun for like practice and getting to watch practice and watching these guys and getting your own scouting notes, like it's great to pick the brain of people who are around the industry as well, whether it's, media members who have been doing this for a long time for ESPN or NFL Network or whoever it is, or, people who are kind of like you're doing, kind of just like doing their own independent thing and having their own notes and all that. And it's great to, get the differing opinions on sort of like what people think about players, what they've been hearing, because a lot of people might be very in tune to what certain teams are doing and things like that. So it's a great week. It's one of my favorite weeks of the entire season. It's always a long week when it comes to travel and, you're not getting a lot of sleep during these weeks and everything. But I mean, like it's those things, but for the best reason. You get to see some people that you love and that you interact with throughout the entire year. And then obviously getting to see some live football is a lot of fun as well. So shout out to both the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl for putting on fantastic events. New staff at the Senior Bowl this year. And I really love the changes, actually. They had practices in the afternoons instead of very early in the morning. Like in years past, first practice might start at 8 a.m. and it just makes for a really long day and it makes for a very early morning. A lot of times, like if practice is at 8 a.m., you got to be up at 5:30 or 6 because you got to get things ready. You got to understand what you're doing for the day. You're getting breakfast, you're getting coffee, you're trying to get there obviously before practice as well because you're trying to set things up and all that. But this year it was a lot better because we got to relax a little bit in the morning. We got to game plan a lot of like what
sleep in a little bit. There you go.
You get to sleep in a little bit. You get to talk about what the shows are going to be like and all that kinds of stuff. So I really enjoyed the change. I hope that they stick with it. It made for a really, of course, like a little bit longer of evenings and days, but I thought it made for a really great week. And so it was awesome, man. So, basically, if I could summarize it in too long, didn't read, it's awesome. I love that week.
That's great to hear, man. I was watching the practices on TV in the game on Saturday, and the weather looked beautiful compared to up here.
Phenomenal.
The whole eastern seaboard is like 5 degrees and under a blizzard right now of snow. So I haven't gone outside in days, so that it looked nice down there, and I was a little jealous of the warm weather for sure. But cool, man. Well, we'll talk a little bit about the game a tad bit. I know the focal point of the Senior Bowl week itself isn't really the game itself. It's more kind of focused on the practices, which is kind of ironic and probably fans would probably not understand that as much, but I'll let you kind of explain how that all goes down. And then we'll kind of get into some of your biggest risers for the week and tell me kind of what you saw in the first few days of practice. And then I can give some of my takeaways from the game itself.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's sort of weird to hear that practice is more important than a game, but it often is because the whole reason why you would prioritize or find value in, I think, the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl is you're looking for these guys to put in different environments and you're looking for them to get reps, with different looks in different spots against different players. And it's always just very different. I think it's been the best word to say. You get some of these guys, it's a little different now with the transfer era being as open as it is, but a lot of times you would get these players that have spent the last 3 or 4 years in one system with one coach or maybe two coaches, but you're getting to put them in an unfamiliar environment. And you're really getting to sort of plop them down and see how they take very quickly to NFL coaching and how they're able to react to new environments and just what strengths are able to stand out for these players. And so that's always a great part of practice. The first practice is always a little bit of a ramp up no matter what, but then, the second day you get into a lot more one-on-ones, a lot more 2-minute drills for these teams. The third day you'll get into red zone drills, and red zone's the priority for what you're looking to see. And so that's really what I'm looking at when it's like practice versus the game. I know you got more eyes on the game, but do you want me to talk about some of the risers, or do you want to talk about the game first?
Absolutely, yeah, get into it. So okay. I was going to queue up next question. Give me your 3 biggest risers coming out of the week. Any position, any player, you go.
There were a lot of notable players who played really well. Like Lee Hunter played well, Caleb Banks played well, TJ Parker played well, Romello Height played well. Like a lot of the guys that we kind of thought were going to play well ended up, especially on the defensive line, they performed very well in practices. And so like a true riser, in my opinion, is somebody that we maybe weren't expecting. And so I'm not going to say any of those headlining names, even though I do think that they had good weeks. But a couple of the biggest risers, I'm going to start with Pittsburgh linebacker Kyle Lewis, who I thought was a major riser on the week. The one-on-one drills that linebackers have versus running backs in coverage is so heavily weighted towards running backs standing out. They have the whole field to work with. They know exactly where they're going. They know exactly what the route is. And the linebacker is really just trying to stay close. Ultimately, you're just trying to be sticky in coverage. You're trying to anticipate their movements a little bit. Are they giving it a little bit away with their shoulders, their hips, or something? And you're just trying to get a beat on it to where you're at least close in coverage, to where they're probably going to catch the football, but are you close there to make a tackle or maybe even get a pass breakup? Kyle Lewis was so explosive. He was so good with his anticipation. He was so fluid in his movements. He not only had a couple of pass breakups, he had multiple interceptions on that drill. If you look at his entire body of work throughout the week, in that drill alone, it was probably the best I've ever seen a linebacker play in that drill, ever. Not just this past year, but ever. So
it's quite the praise.
So you talk about that's high praise. So you talk about a player who isn't really built like a linebacker. He weighed in at around 5'11" and a half, 225 pounds.
Yep.
And I think that this is
Ivan Pace. 2.0?
So he's not Ivan Pace because Ivan Pace, as you remember from being a Cincinnati guy, he was a bull. Like he's the pass rusher guy. You put him in an inside linebacker spot and you just let him blitz the offensive line. And
how that dude went undrafted, I have no idea.
No, because there was always going to be some value there. There's no question. And obviously the Vikings were able to unlock that. Lewis, I think, is different because I don't think he's a traditional linebacker, but I do think he's a great nickel defender. We're seeing an age where Derwin James, Nicky Manwari, Jalen Petrie, Kyler Gordon, like players like this who are just these slot defenders who are sort of like in this overhang, but also can play in the box type of role. Like that's exactly what Kyle Lewis can do. Are there going to be some wide receivers that maybe are a little bit smaller, a little bit faster that might give him fists if he's sort of in that nickel defender role? Yeah, but he defends the run really well from that linebacker background. He's super explosive. He's got great ball skills, and you don't have to take him off the field. When the other team is in a heavy run package, Kyle Lewis can be your Sam. You know, he can stay on the field and be more of a linebacker. And then when they spread it out in nickel, you can have him kick out into that overhang role to play more in the slot. I got so much more faith in who he's going to be as an NFL player because of that this past week. So he's the first one. Max Ionicher, the offensive tackle from Arizona State, is next because there was some love for him being a really good athlete, and he graded well for PFF when it came to the pass blocking metrics for him. But my goodness, I mean, day 2 and day 3, I didn't really see anybody get by him. And we're talking about guys who are trying to win with power, guys who are trying to win with finesse, guys who are trying to win with technique. His footwork, his balance, his explosiveness was so good. So I thought he was a major riser because the way that he played makes you think about drafting him in the top 50. Maybe even he'll get some first round buzz as well for how good of an athlete that he is. And then the final guy that I'll shout out is Sam Hecht, the offensive center from Kansas State. He started the last 25 games of his college career at center, really solid PFF grades as a run blocker and a pass blocker throughout. And for 3 straight days, I mean, I could probably count on one hand the amount of total reps that he lost, whether it was one-on-one or in the team drills. I mean, his grip is fantastic. He's got great core strength, such great balance. I think he's versatile in what they asked him to do when it came to run blocking as well. We talk about Connor Liu, and I think he's been sort of the understood, like, best center in the class. You know, we'll talk about Jake Slaughter as well from Florida, kind of up there in that conversation. I genuinely think that Sam Hecht could be the best center in this class from what I saw in Mobile. He just did not lose. He did not lose barely any reps, and I think anytime
over
that's the case,
your Gator great Jake Slaughter,
he was better than Jake.
I was going to bring him up. That was one of my he dominated in the game, and Austin Barber as well. Both Florida linemen were just like moving dudes in the run game.
And I think that Slaughter is a good center. Like I think that I want to make it clear. Like I think he's a good center prospect, but when you have the body of work that Sam Hecht was able to put out there for 3 straight days, I mean, he had a better overall week. I truly feel like than Slaughter did, and that's again not really a knock on Slaughter. It's more of just how impressed I was with Sam Hecht.
Going specifically, so one of my favorite moments of draft season is finding the small school guys. I know you love that too. As a big Toledo Rocket Maction fan, I love any guys from the MAC. Give me a list of some small school guys who were there. I know Chris Johnson was the big name coming out of San Diego State.
Right.
EMW, my guy McNeil Warren ended up opting out of the Senior Bowl at the last second. Specifically, any small school guys who really caught your eye there?
Yeah, I think there's 2. I think there's one on offense and there's one on defense who were great. The first one is one that I'm sure anybody who is following Senior Bowl coverage already knows the name by this point, but Tyron Montgomery, the wide receiver from John Carroll University, which is a D3 school.
I almost went to college there to run cross country. Fun fact.
Did you really?
I almost did, but I'm not a Cleveland fan. I couldn't deal with Cleveland sports fans. And the weather, it's even snowier up there than Cincinnati. So
That's true.
I didn't want to run cross country, so that was kind of it. But enough about me.
That was probably the core reason why you didn't go there to run cross country.
I would have been wide receiver 1 though for them.
You would have very clearly. Yeah, you could have made a name for yourself. It would have been you and Tyron Montgomery, absolutely, or you would have been paving the way for him.
Right.
He is such a great athlete, and he's got an interesting story. more of a basketball player than anything coming out of high school. Walked on to LSU's basketball team, but then his mom ended up getting sick, and so he kind of had to drop out and go back home and just sort of support the family. And his plan was just, hey, get a job, stick around the family, help out the family. But his brother played college football, and his brother was like, dude, you can play. You could play college football if you wanted to. He actually didn't play a snap of high school football, so he had to go enroll in a flag football league to just get tape of him at wide receiver to send to coaches. He ends up trying to walk on at Houston, but because it was right after the COVID eligibility years, they just didn't have any spots because guys didn't have to graduate. They had an extra year of eligibility. He ends up going to Nicholls State, which is D2, I think. D1 or D2?
I think Nicholls is D1, but
okay.
FCS.
Yes.
Because I've seen him in the tournament for basketball before.
So it was D1, but it was FCS, but he only had 1 year of D1 eligibility.
Gotcha.
So then after that, he had to go to D3, and he played at John Carroll for the last 2 seasons. And I mean, he absolutely stood out. To me, he was one of the top. He wasn't just a good story. He was one of the top wide receivers there. And
wow.
Up until this point, he does not have a combine invite, is what I heard. John Schmelk, who covers the NFL draft and everything for the New York Giants, he told me that he asked him, and he didn't have a combine yet when he asked him during Senior Bowl week. But I think after the week that he had, he's going to get a combine invite. Yeah. I can't wait to see how he tests, because I think this is a really explosive athlete. So he really stood out to me. I think he's a future NFL player. And then the other one is Nadeem Tucker, the pass rusher from Western Michigan.
I was going to ask about him if you didn't. So.
No, I mean, he was great.
3 sacks in the game or something like that? Insane.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little bit smaller of a player. What was his official measurables? Let me see. Western Michigan, where is this at?
I saw he finished with
He didn't weigh in. I forgot. He was one of the guys that didn't weigh in.
He finished with a 93 PFF grade in the Senior Bowl game.
Right.
So,
yeah.
elite level production.
Which matches what he did in the season, because he had an elite pass rushing grade at Western Michigan as well.
And coming from the MAC, you want to see that going up against the big dogs. So that's good.
No question. Won a lot with quick hands, good first step, some good bend to him. He's a smaller edge rusher. He's a designated pass rusher type of player. But, early day 3, I think you take a chance on this guy, especially for what he could bring and the top value that he can bring you as a guy who knows how to get in the backfield. So he also had a great week as a small school guy.
Nice, man. I love hearing that. I'm always rooting for the small school guys. It's funny. It's like just like an optics look. It seems like those are the guys that always make it in the league, and then you end up seeing them like an Edelman type of guy, obviously from Kent State, way different type of receiver. But it's just you look back in 10 years from now, and then it's like, wow, this guy had a 12-year career and was very good. Like that's funny.
I do think that it's crazy how often guys will not only make teams, but like are decent rotational and contributing players, and they're like undrafted guys from like small schools. And obviously I cover the draft professionally, but like I've never even heard of this player. Like I try to know like 300, 400 names throughout a draft class, and there's always this player who gets invited to a training camp or makes a team or something like that, who I just go, how do you even know this player exists?
Yeah. And we as the sickos we feel like mad when we don't recognize a name. And it's
totally,
like, anytime an NFL player comes up and I don't know where they went to college, I'm like disappointed in myself.
It's the ultimate. Dudes will sit around and name where guys went to college. Those are the ultimate polls though. So just sort of getting back to these smaller school guys. It's always fun to see them stand out and make their names and waves towards the NFL draft.
Moving on to specifically quarterbacks now. I want to get into the quarterbacks specifically here because we had 6 of them who were there, and I wanted to kind of rank them out with you here because I had a ranking going into the week and then moved a couple of the names around, obviously coming out from the season. So my initial ranking of the quarterbacks entering the week was I had Taylor Green as my top guy, then I had Nussmeier, then I had Luke Altmaier and Robertson in kind of the same tier. And then Peyton and Pavia. Peyton is kind of the question mark to me because we just haven't seen it in the FBS. Obviously, coming from North Dakota State, he put up absurd numbers against inferior competition. You kind of never know what he's going to look like. Thought he looked okay. I thought the last drive of the game, he kind of commanded the offense well and led down for a touchdown drive. But I've heard some people call him QB3 in this class, and I'm not really seeing that. I don't really know who QB3 might be, but it might be Garrett Nussmeier coming away from this, which I don't know if we would have said a few months ago.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting because I think Nuss played the best of any quarterback during the week. So, like, if we're ranking how guys performed during the week, I would tell you that, like, just during Senior Bowl week, including the game, I would say Nussmeier was 1. I'd say Altmaier was 2. I think
I was going to point him out. So I thought Altmaier looked way better in practices than the game. I thought in the game he actually got a little unlucky. He had two guys drop passes for him, and then there was one free rusher who like knocked the ball out of his hand. Wasn't really his fault, but I thought Altmaier was good in practice. Threw a couple really nice layered balls to the end zone. There was one that Louis Riddick was like losing his mind over, and so was I. And I was kind of like, oh my god, like that was. What was that? But
Altmaier is one of those quarterbacks that, like, I don't really think he has starter potential at the NFL, but this is, like, as they say, a 10-year backup in the NFL. Like, he could basically be a backup in the NFL for as long as he wants. That's the kind of player that I think he is. So I would say Nuss is 1, Altmaier is 2. I'd probably say Robertson's 3. Taylor Green was 4. Taylor Green, just to me, he was kind of exactly what he was at Arkansas. He had a couple of the biggest throws of the week, but he also he's just too inconsistent. And to be honest with you, I think he's too good of an athlete to stick at quarterback at the NFL level. Like, I think he is destined to move positions to either wide receiver or tight end, depending on how well he's going to be able to block, because I just don't think he's ever going to be consistent enough as a quarterback for him to be anything more than a QB3. And at that point, if he's just going to be a QB3 for you, let him be an athlete. Let him actually try to get on the field, and let him be a wide receiver or a tight end. So that's
is he going to follow the Felipe Franks model from Arkansas, former Arkansas legend, and become the next tight end in the league as well?
I kind of do think that he can, and obviously Felipe Franks has totally changed positions now. He plays tight end now at the NFL level. That's the
comp.
Correct. That's the comp. Yes. Yeah.
I agree with you there on Green. There was one play in the game where he was literally rolling out to his right and back shoulder, threw across his body to the left side of the field. And Daniel Jeremiah was like, yeah, that's the ball you don't want to see him let go of his hands. And you just throw that one out of bounds.
Right.
He's lucky it didn't result in an interception, but it was definitely a turnover-worthy play. So,
yeah.
No, I'm with you on Taylor Green. The athleticism's there. The rushing ability is there, but I don't know if he's ever going to be a full just drop back quarterback in the NFL. And, Altmaier, I'm with you. I think he's probably the most fundamentally sound of the 6 in this bunch here, probably other than Nussmeier. I think Nussmeier was 5 for 8, but the 3 passes he missed were drops. So his PFF grade was nuts in the Senior Bowl specifically. What do you think happened at LSU with Nussmeier and kind of why it kind of didn't work out? Because coming into the season, a lot of people had him up in the QB2, QB3 mix.
Sure.
And then obviously LSU's season kind of went the way it did. He got benched. Not all his fault. The receiving core wasn't great, but I guess how confident would a team feel drafting Nussmeier? And I guess how high would you do it?
I think the NFL is going to feel a lot more confident than I am about it. I would still have him, depending on if Trinidad Chambliss is in the class, I would have him QB3. But if he's not in the class, then I would have Nussmeier at QB3. I still think Nussmeier is. I hate to use this because we use this example all the time. It feels like for too many guys, but he's got a lot of Baker Mayfield in him, and where I feel like Nussmeier is just, you have to live with the good and the bad, and I don't love doing that with quarterbacks who are behind the 8 ball when it comes to measurables. I mean, he is a shorter, smaller quarterback, and I think I think you're right, and I think he's got a better arm than most shorter quarterbacks do. But even his best at LSU was still it had a lot of throws that you wish that he wouldn't attempt. It had a lot of throws that he wished that he had back, and that was even when he was at his best at LSU.
Yeah,
and so
that's an interesting comp because I comped him to a different Oklahoma quarterback. I comped him to Spencer Rattler. What do you think of that?
Yeah, so I actually think that that's a really good comp, to be honest with you. Now, Spencer turned into more of a risk averse type of quarterback in
Less
his
gunslinger.
last year when he was at South Carolina, and then during his time at with the New Orleans Saints. But I think that is an interesting comp given the arm strength that Spencer Rattler has. So I definitely do not hate that at all whatsoever. I think that's very close to sort of the way that you need to think about him. But all of that to say, I think the NFL has kind of just been waiting for any excuse to be like, yep, this guy, yep, we're going to draft him. I mean, he's Doug Nussmeier's kid.
Yeah.
Doug Nussmeier's
Is Shuck going to lose his starting job to Nussmeier?
No, I don't think he's going. I don't think he's going to. But I think that there's a world where Nussmeier now goes top 50 again, just because I think that the NFL was sort of waiting for him, just to do something good enough to where they can go, yep, we're back in. Coach's kid, he's been around the game his entire life. He'll attempt the tough throws, like all this kinds of stuff. So I even wonder like if Trinidad is in this class, which I have no idea.
Dude, he should be. He needs to come out. It's foolish not to.
So the way that I say it is, he has obviously not had a chance to play D1 college football very long. It's just this year for him. If his dream all along was to play D1 college football, to play for an SEC program, to compete for a national championship, I get it. Try everything that you can to go back. If he has ever, at any point, dreamed about playing in the NFL, you have to be in this class.
Yes.
You have to declare for this class. Because the problem is that even if he wins the Heisman and the national championship next year, I still don't think there's any guarantee that like he goes one or he's considered this first round caliber of a prospect because of how small he is. I like him a lot. I would like to draft him. He's very intriguing for me. But outside of him just having the most unbelievable season next year, it's hard to believe that in next year's potential quarterback class, he would get drafted higher than he would.
The game he played against Georgia, like, you're not going to replicate a performance like that.
That's
and
how I feel.
That's not dogging on the kid. He's spectacular. He's brilliant. It's why we want to see him go to the league now and push the chips in, if you will, because I do think it is time. But, no, I get it on that one. Cool. All right, let's move on. Enough on the quarterbacks. I'm going to do a couple rapid-fire player evals at you here, okay? Couple names of guys I like coming out of the week, and you can just kind of give me a quick, 30-second elevator pitch on them.
Cool. Sounds good.
Starting with a wide receiver from my alma mater, Cyrus Allen. This was a guy I liked during the season, and I heard he got a lot of buzz last week.
Love him. One of my biggest risers of the entire Senior Bowl. I mean, he was one of the best route runners there. He had fantastic body control, really good hands, and even when we got into the red zone drills on day 3, he was going up and getting it. He was attacking things at the catch point despite being a little bit smaller of a receiver. I think that this kid can play at the NFL level. Like, I think he's legit has that wide receiver 3 type of ability to him, and he had an awesome week. And the NFL noticed that too. If he puts together some good athletic numbers at the combine, we're going to be talking about Cyrus Allen as certainly a top 100 pick, maybe even a top 75 pick for how good he looked this past week.
Let's go. Bearcats taking over the league. Love to see it. Yes. All right. Paige Casey. Now, this guy has been one of the best linemen in college football for 2 seasons now. When I was doing Team of the Week for PFF, I think he was the tackle of the week every single week for like 6 straight weeks last season.
Yeah.
I don't think his production was as great in just like the season as a whole, but he's projected to the next level. I think he's going to be a solid lineman.
Yeah, I think that solid's probably the word that you're shooting for with Paige Casey. I mean, even when I was watching him, he's somebody who wins and losses. Like, it's just it's inconsistent for him, but he'll have really good reps. He's got things he's got to polish up. Sometimes I get a little bit worried with how he takes on power, and he came into the Senior Bowl at a little over 6'5" and 309 pounds. I can't remember what Boise State had him listed at, but there were times when I felt like, dealing with some of the strongest defensive linemen, the fastest defensive linemen, the linemen who have the longest arms that he faced throughout the season. Yeah. It's those premium guys that he'll see a lot more on a regular basis at the NFL level that I felt like he struggled with. The run-of-the-mill, average and even above average pass rushers, I think he has the ability to handle pretty well. But I do think he is more of a backup, maybe swing offensive tackle, sort of a solid depth player at the NFL level.
Yeah, especially coming over from Mountain West competition into Power 4. That's probably a good point you made there. Julian Neal. So this guy I like a lot. TJ Wenger, the last draft analyst I had last week, was really high on this guy. Thoughts on him?
Yeah, super explosive, really long. I mean, he's got the potential to play that press man coverage. He played, I mean, again, it was an up and down week like it is for a lot of guys at the Senior Bowl. I wouldn't say that he was like a major standout for me, but there were times when it's like, okay, you get in those press coverage one-on-one reps where you're obviously able to get hands on him pretty quickly. You're able to flip the hips. You're able to run with these guys. I did feel as though, if I'm remembering him correctly this past week, I felt as though some of those double moves and just sort of the quick hesitation got him with a little bit of like, his feet were in quicksand, you know what I'm saying? Where he would be like, okay, all right, now I'm going to read where you're going. And at that point, it was a little bit too late. Now he's in recovery mode. Now he's trying to catch up to the wide receiver, which it's not always the worst thing because trail technique is a thing. You know, sometimes you can play trail technique well and you've got that recovery speed, and I do think he's a good athlete.
Sauce used to do it in the American Conference, but that's because he was just faster than everyone else.
He was able to recover really well, yes. But
it was like I would notice it on his reps. I would be like, no, Sauce did that on purpose because he knows he can catch up to the guy.
It's a lot more difficult to do that at the NFL level, but I think that somebody is going to take Julian Neal, I think right around the top 100, right? I think that back into the third round, early part of the fourth round because of the size that he has. That's sort of the range that I have for Julian Neal.
Do you think the Rams are going to take Colton Hood at 12 overall, or is that too high? I think he fits them perfectly on in the secondary.
I wouldn't mind the fit. I think that 12's too high for Colton Hood. Even watching him this past week, I watched him in his Tennessee tape, and I really like how he closes downhill when he's in sort of those off-coverage roles. He does have the athleticism to play man coverage, but I always felt like he was more aggressive and confident when he was in off-coverage, and he was able to kind of come downhill and anticipate when the quarterback was going to release it. He's got a good feel for how much space he should give a wide receiver while still having the ability to, attack the ball if it's coming towards the sideline, an out route or a comeback or something like that. So I do think that he has good overall athletic potential, but I don't think that, you talk about 12 overall, you're talking about like Jermon McCoy, Mansour Delane range. And I do not think that Colton Hood is the type of prospect that those two guys are at corner. And I think we saw him have an up and down Senior Bowl week. There was some good that you could hang your hat on, but there were also times when I felt like wide receivers were getting the better of him, especially in those one-on-ones. And so I've been seeing a lot more mock drafts recently of Colton Hood going really high in mocks, and I think I see him more as like a back end of the first round, but I'd be much more comfortable with him as a second round corner type of a player because of how much I feel like he both won and lost. You're going to have to take the good with the bad, and I feel like that spells out a second round corner more than a first round corner.
So here's a running back I've been familiar with for a few seasons now. I did a feature story and interviewed this kid a couple years ago back at California. Had an interesting season at Oklahoma. We don't need to talk about the regular season, but he kind of blew up at the Senior Bowl last week. Jaden Ott.
Yeah.
This kid has elite traits as an NFL running back in terms of just like physical tools. The production hasn't necessarily been there, but he's shown it in prior seasons on tape. So what are your thoughts on Ott moving forward? Because he's got speed, man, and he's got the size. He's the size of an NFL back.
Yep.
You just didn't see the production.
Yeah. Got buried on the Oklahoma depth chart for whatever reason. But I had him RB2 going into the year.
He looked really good in the game. I'll just say
I thought you go back 2 years ago, because not 2025, you go back to 2024, like he was hurt in 2024, so the numbers weren't the same, the tape wasn't the same.
Yeah.
But if you go back the year before when he was fully healthy at Cal, that
1,300 rushing yards.
3 season, he was awesome. The vision was great. He was decisive. He was great behind zone blocking concepts.
He would run kick returns too. He was doing special teams for him.
I think he is absolutely an NFL talent. I don't know what happened at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I don't know. There are Oklahoma fans that'll tell you like, oh, he got hurt and then he quit on the team. And I have no idea. I have no idea what happened, but for whatever reason, they did not play him at all whatsoever. And I think something happened. Something happened, and the Oklahoma program was, because it's not like Ott was hurt the whole season. I don't think he was hurt the whole season. For whatever reason, Oklahoma did not want to play him over the other backs that they played a lot more than him. But I think he's got NFL ability. I think you saw that in practice. I think you certainly saw that in the game as well. So I'm a fan of his when it comes to what he could be in the pros.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up in the draft because I do see him being an RB2 in the league and being a damn good one, honestly.
Yep.
So, here's a player I have been manifesting to the Detroit Lions.
Okay.
Where are they going to draft Jennings Dunker? He's such a Dan Campbell player, man. Just get him in the Honolulu blue right now.
I like Jennings Dunker, man, and I was really high on him coming into the season. I knew that he probably was not going to be a tackle at the NFL level. I have always projected him to play guard. And which the Lions need. I think that they played. I think that they. I think the way he played at guard this past week at the Senior Bowl makes you think that he can be a starting guard at the NFL level. Now, he's something that needs cleaned up. Dalton Washman and I both noticed this with him. His stance. His pre-snap stance is not very explosive. Like, it doesn't give him the ability to get off the ball very quickly. His feet are kind of like pointed a little bit outward, and he's so much more on his heels to where if you slow down some of the reps that you saw, especially in day 1, day 2 and day 3, I think it was a little bit better. I don't know if he was like trying to change things up a little bit, but if you watch him on day 3, let's say he's like going this way, like it's a mid or outside zone play, and he's moving his body this way. The ball will be snapped, and you will almost like see him like load his foot and then go. It's not, oh, the ball was snapped, boom, I'm already on my toes, I'm already loaded on my quads, and the second that the ball moves, I am moving in this direction. He almost like. It's almost like you know how like a cartoon, like they like load up to then like you have like a powerful run or like start running. It was almost like, I'm over exaggerating obviously to that point, but it was very strange to me because on the good plays where we saw him explode, it's like, dude, you have this in you.
Yeah.
His stance was just very interesting. So he's not going to be a first round pick. I don't think he's going to be a first round pick because of a lot of this, you know, the position change and maybe having to mess with his footwork and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm still a Jennings Dunker believer. And whether it's the Lions in the second round or wherever it is, just a team that runs that outside zone. I mean, he is somebody who is built like you want an offensive lineman to be built, not only physically, but also the mentality.
The mullet,
he has.
yeah.
Well, the mullet as well, yes.
To me, it's the classic aesthetic of that's a football player, where you just look at it. And I know maybe that's lazy scouting, but, you know.
I agree with you, though.
Last guy I wanted to ask you about on Rapid Fire here, one of your guys, a Gator great. I've heard mixed things about this player, and I did hear he had a good Senior Bowl, so I'd like to hear your take on him. Caleb Banks, the defensive tackle from the Florida Gators.
It's a very needed week for him because I thought Caleb Banks was a surefire, no question about it, top 50 pick in last year's draft. And then he opted to return to Florida, and I was like, all right, didn't see that one coming. And then obviously Florida doesn't have a great year, but more importantly, Caleb Banks hurt his foot and he barely played this past season. So, of course, the NFL can often be a what have you done for me lately kind of a thing when it comes to scouting. And so this week was really big for him. And I thought he was pretty quiet that first day of practice. But then the second and third days, not to say that he was completely dominant, because I think there were certainly times when he was still losing some reps. But the good, like the flashes, the best from Caleb Banks, you go, yeah, okay, I understand why you got top 20 projection going into the year. Like there are just moments where at 6'6", 330 pounds, you shouldn't be able to explode the way that he does into the backfield and just getting through offensive linemen. So I thought that his best reps were as dominant as anybody's throughout the week. Although it was still inconsistent, it was good to remind NFL scouts and teams and everything like, hey, I still have this. Like, even though we haven't seen it in a year, I've still got it. So I do still think he's in the first round conversations.
Now, we talked about some positive players coming out of the Senior Bowl. We're going to keep this positive. I don't want to be too negative here, but who are three guys who maybe, I don't want to say like didn't perform their best down there, but maybe left some hope to be left some to be desired and some
Sure.
meat on the bone, I guess, if you will, who could still up their stock in the pre-draft process?
So obviously there's no football to be played from here on out. So it's basically just the combine and the pro days. I think that Ted Hurst from Georgia State is somebody who I think a lot of people went into this week saying like, oh, dude, Ted Hurst is going to be like the standout wide receiver. And I think he was fine this week. I don't think he was bad. But I don't think he was like this super standout player that a lot of people thought that he was going to be. So I feel as though like a good combine performance from him could have him back in that top 100 conversation like a couple of people thought he was going to have coming into it. This player did not have a bad week at all whatsoever, but like Jacob Rodriguez is somebody who comes to my mind as like somebody who I think could rise throughout the rest of the draft process, because basically what I'm saying is I thought Jacob Rodriguez obviously had an unbelievable season as the linebacker for Texas Tech. I thought he had a good Senior Bowl as well. There's just still the question of how fast are you? Like how much of an athlete are you? So I think that he could rise throughout the draft, through the rest of draft season, because if he runs really well at the combine, then I think you feel pretty good about him.
To me, he's that player who like was unbelievable from a production standpoint for multiple seasons on end in college. So many scouts are going to overthink drafting him, and then he's going to be very good in the league. Like that is what I could see Jacob Rodriguez doing, because like clearly the talent's there. Clearly he knows how to play the position. Obviously, it's just been the athleticism question mark and then the ceiling aspect. Because it's like if you're drafting linebackers like that, you ultimately want a couple guys who could maybe come up and rush the passer a little bit, which is why Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles are so highly projected. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, we just did linebacker rankings on Stock Exchange, and I had Rodriguez as I had him at 5. I had him as LB5. Well, I technically had Kyle Lewis at 5, but like Kyle Lewis, I kind of see him as like a nickel defender. But like as a true linebacker, I had Jacob Rodriguez as my LB5 in the class. And there's some really good ones in front of him. So I still think that he should get a chance to start in the league. And obviously, if he's able to run super well, I think that I reconsider maybe moving him a little bit higher. The last guy, Justin Joly, the tight end from NC State, receiving tight end, basically only a receiving tight end. And I thought he would have stood out a little bit more for Senior Bowl week. So I think the combine and testing pretty well athletically is going to be important for him if he still wants to go top 100. Because if not, I think that the league probably views him as more of an early day 3 pick type of a guy.
Yeah, I like Jolie last season in NC State more than I did this season. I thought he was better in 2024. So yeah, definitely want to see more out of him for sure.
Yeah.
All right, last question, Trevor, before I let you go here.
Okay.
So a trivia question I asked on my platform 2 weeks ago was who was the highest drafted player ever from the Senior Bowl? And first off, do you know the answer?
The highest drafted player from the Senior Bowl.
Mike Renner confirmed this answer to me because I got it wrong at first.
Well, Baker went 1.
Yes, that's
so it's Baker. Yeah,
it's Baker.
Yeah.
I thought it was Herbert. Herbert was my first answer because I didn't know Baker went to the Senior Bowl.
Herbert also would have tied Josh.
Josh. That was those two were. I was either down to Josh Allen or Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is, who do you think will be this year's highest drafted player to come out of the Senior Bowl?
I think it's. I think it's going to be one of the 2 defensive tackles. I think it's going to be either Lee Hunter from Texas Tech, or I think it's going to be Caleb Banks from Florida. I think it's going to be one of those guys. I think that Lee Hunter was dominant. He was dominant towards the second half of the college football season and in the college football playoff. He was dominant, I felt like, at the Senior Bowl as well. It's just like he's got a little bit more of a bowling ball build to him. You know, he's not the longest defensive lineman. He doesn't have that length to him. And then Caleb Banks, he's more inconsistent, but the flashes, the length, the overall size for the NFL, like that's a difference-making NFL player. So I would say one of those 2 defensive tackles is going to be the highest drafted guy coming out of the Senior Bowl.
Top 20, top 15. Where are you thinking?
I would think that if one of those guys is going to be the top drafted player, it's somewhere in the top 20. Yes. Because if we get outside of the top 20, then we bring in like Zion Young comes into play, TJ Parker comes into play. I don't think Romello Height's going to go that high, but like Max Giannicher perhaps maybe comes into play if people believe in him enough. So I think those two guys, in my opinion, have the best chance to go top 20. So that's why I would probably name one of those guys there.
Fantastic stuff, Trevor. I appreciate you coming on, man. Tell us where we can watch all your shows at.
PFF, PFF YouTube channel, obviously doing all of the shows with my co-host Dalton Wasserman, which I know your audience knows well because you had him on the show already. But also for all the NFL draft stuff, my rankings, the mock drafts of teams, all that good stuff. NFL Stock Exchange, the NFL Stock Exchange YouTube channel.
Appreciate it, Trevor. Once again, we'll get you back on to do a mock draft in a few months here. Can't wait for mock draft season. Thank you guys for watching The Point After with Mitch Kaiser today. I'll link a Substack article to this episode below, and I'll make sure to link Trevor's shows and NFL SE podcast as well in the comments. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to The Point After with Mitch Kaiser. I'm releasing my Drake May interview next Monday after the Super Bowl, so keep your eyes out for the full exclusive 20-minute interview I did with Drake like 3.5 years ago in 2023. So I got to get that clip out some way or another. So now is the perfect time.
Now is the perfect time, and he's your boy. And now like this is when you want to do it, especially if he wins the Super Bowl. I'm
doing it after the game. Because I don't want to jinx him. I'm doing it after the game because I just don't want to, what if he sees it and then he doesn't play well? Or I don't want to be the reason he loses the Super Bowl, which, of course, that would be the reason.
For sure. Yes.
So thanks again coming on, Trevor. This is all I got for you guys today. I'm going to do a solo episode on Friday. Still coming up with a topic on that one. So we'll surprise you guys on Friday with my solo show. Again, like, comment, subscribe to The Point After with Mitch Kaiser. Guys, have a great rest of your day.